Hi, I'm back with Uthando Nes'thembu. Musa said some stuff that I think should be talked about more. I've been on the app and no one is really talking about what he said, which is giving me a lostro. It's nothing controversial. I'm just going to state a fact that Mseleku is a misogynist, even though he is married to 5 wives. He is a walking contradiction. I'm Khuputso, by the way. Welcome to Bioskop and Champagne, a place where we watch movies, series, and especially trash reality television. In this video, I will be talking about Uthando Nes'thembu, episodes 4 to 7. If you aren't familiar with Uthando Nes'thembu, it is a South African reality show that follows the lives of Musa Mseleku, his 5 wives, and his children. It has been on our South African screens for the past 8 years. So essentially, we've gone through a lot and grown up with the wives and Musa Mseleku himself, even though Musa Mseleku has not changed one bit. He's actually just shown himself even more to be the worst. Within the 4 episodes I will be talking about, we saw Mseleku and all of his wives at the dinner table where they all watched the last episode of season 7 together for the first time. We found out that Mseleku's son with MaYENI'S, Mpumelelo, is planning to snatch himself up a virgin matriarch, even though he already has children out of wedlock. And we understood that Mseleku has no problem with that because Mpumelelo is a boy child. We also then sort of get a glimpse into the dynamic that Mseleku and MaCELE actually have because of the contention of the fact that MaCELE is the first wife, the matriarch. So she should, in a sense, assist her husband in building and expanding the Mseleku bloodline, the Mseleku legacy, in so far as disciplining the wives and being a deputy husband in that effect. And for MaCELE, she is like, but these people were brought in by you. You are the one who has married them. They are your wives, right? Even though I said yes because this is what you, in a sense, wanted. But for me to be an outside person coming into the affairs of 2 people is unfair of you to ask of me to do. It's really those moments where we actually see their emotions and we see their knee-jerk reactions. And those are the glimpses that we get of how real everything is finally becoming. Apart from the diaries where the veil comes off and you actually hear and see what it is they feel about certain things. It's a whole thing of us seeing the cracks as they appear on screen live for all to see, for the nation to experience how polygamy really is. Because I feel like for the past few seasons, they were sort of giving us a scripted version, a very glamorized version of polygamy, when in fact what we are seeing in season 8 as it is unfolding is the true picture.
There is
this consensus online that it is scripted, which that's not a surprise at all. Yes, it may be scripted, but if you read between the lines and you actually watch and pay attention, you can see that the mask has slipped and people are saying what they really feel finally, and people are scrambling. We saw Mseleku go to his in-laws, this is Makhumalo's parents, and thanks them for raising such an obedient daughter. He's such a lucky person for snagging her when she was way too young, just like he has snagged MaKhwela at the tender age of 22. We also saw MaYENI'S express her feelings about how Mseleku tends to become very disrespectful once he gets what he wants, which is a trait that we also find in Mpumelelo as well. Also, I want to say this, that whenever MaYENI comes on screen and is with her husband in the diaries, right, there's always the use of music that communicates that whatever she is saying is a joke, even when in certain parts she is talking about very deeply painful things. And I feel like that is very disrespectful, because that says that even the production company doesn't take what she says very seriously, just like her husband doesn't take her very seriously. There are points where we can recognize that she is making a joke and she is trying to make light of the situation, but MaYENI'S dark sense of humor comes out whenever she's trying to mask her pain. And I don't think that the production company recognizes that most times. I feel like they tend to get it wrong, and they never sort of really try to discern whenever she's joking or she's using her dark sense of humor to mask her pain. And that's very interesting. I think they are sort of ridiculing how long it is taking her to get over all of the pain she has experienced because of her husband. And that has been something that has been irking me. Every time she comes on, the music changes. The music is communicating, no, this is going to be funny. Whatever she says, don't take it seriously, because she's just talking nonsense anyway. There is this underlying theme in these 4 episodes of Mseleku undermining his wife's contributions within the family. And he always excludes Makhwela in that conversation. At the table, Makhwela was eerily quiet. It's almost like she wasn't even there. And I feel like she was sort of afraid to say something that would be taken out of context by the viewer. I feel like she is trying to avoid all of that. With Mseleku having the gall to disrespect his wives in the way he did in the last episode of season 7 was uncalled for. Even MaYENI pointed it out in saying that you have been so disrespectful. You should not be talking about your wives in the way you have. And she does mention that she knows him so well that once he does get what he wants, right, he will go back to his old ways of disrespecting his wives, even the one that allowed him, because now he's putting it in there in the sense of like, no, she had a choice when in fact she did not. I think it's very fascinating to watch MaYENI be the way she is right now, because it's such a departure from what she's been exhibiting the past 7 seasons. She was the one who was eerily quiet, always on her phone, always not engaging in conversation. And now she's coming out of her shell in a way. She's sort of become like this menace to her husband. I don't know, maybe to show him she is not the one. She is not to be trifled with. It seems as though Mseleku is having a hard time keeping up with her, which is such a joy to see. I feel like it's her way of revenge. Seeing him squirm is sort of, in a sense, healing her. There's actually 2 points I want to talk about, right? There is one point where Mseleku talks about the statistics of mental illness within the male population of South Africa. In episode 5, after Mseleku and MaCELE have like this argument, right, about how MaCELE needs to be his helper, and how her receiving all of this respect from him and his other wives, as he has taught them to do, should be payment enough for her to in turn scratch his back and be the helper he needs her to be. Mseleku speaks of the statistics of men who suffer from mental disorders, and most specifically being classified as mentally disturbed, and how it is directly linked in a sense, to the women in their lives, how the women in their lives are the main reason behind them losing their minds and essentially unaliving themselves. And for him to say that out loud in front of cameras, in front of people, is giving Oros behavior, insinuating that the reason behind the high male is triggered solely by disobedient women and not the mental illness they suffer from is ludicrous. It is misinformed. It is a callous thing to do. This is the type of misguided, misogynistic falsehoods that give some men the unsolicited audacity to then inappropriately react whenever women act with autonomy. These men then find other ways to control and coerce women's behavior, women's decisions, either overtly, which in some cases ends in femicide, or intimate partner violence. This would be gender-based violence in all of its forms. Or more covertly, in Mseleku's case, with using manipulation tactics with MANGWABE, MaCELE, and MaYENI'S. Makhumalo, as I said, is not on his emotional hit list because so far she is his definition of the perfect Stepford sister wife that he feels his other wives should follow the lead of. The statement he made is a dangerous one to make since he has the nation's undivided attention and thus a responsibility to the women of this country to consider what and how he says things, and particularly when it is pointed at women, and how it vilifies us in the eyes of the men who are looking for a living, breathing scapegoat to vanquish into the ether. It is misogynistic and distasteful to all women, and especially his own wives, who in the eyes of the public is a direct reflection of their husband's views and core beliefs. Yes, the show is scripted to a degree, but these diaries are sometimes the only place where the script is thrown out and the real emotions show up. The brutal murders of women in this country has been a source of contention and a source of fear among women. Such brutality is when we saw Uyinene be and murdered in 2019 for no reason, for just being a woman. We also saw 8 months pregnant Chirofajo Pule's murder in Rodiport in 2020, a similar case of a pregnant Petunia Roy, who lost her life at the hands of her boyfriend in May of 2022, is also an unfortunate result of men who view women's bodies as a crime scene. Gender-based violence and femicide is an epidemic in South Africa. Statistics show that women in this country are more likely to and murdered than they are to get a job, which is very scary, and it says a lot about what men really think about women in this country. And for Mseleku to say what he said with innate comfortability in uttering such callous statements that lack evidence on a show that millions, I'm sure, of South Africans are watching, millions of young men are watching, and millions of young women are watching as well, is a slap in the face to all of the women in this country, a slap in the face to his wives, a slap in the face to his girl children as well. That he is a misogynist who is actively working against gender-based violence and femicide prevention efforts. He is enemy number one. For him to proliferate such disinformation, such lies, is quite a sad thing to see. And the fact that there were so many steps between the shooting of the show up until the airing of the show, for editors, for producers, for someone in the production line to say, but what he's saying here is misinformation and we shouldn't even air that, because there will be someone out there who will take that as the truth and run with it. And the consequences of what he is saying are bigger than just him using it as a throwaway line, and we should not be using this platform so irresponsibly. He is in the public eye. There are men who actually look up to him, young men, older men too, and he is shaping their views around women. And what he is shaping when he said that is a very dangerous society for the next generation of women. It also brings into question why it is Mseleku has such contempt for women. Why then even marry women when you have such contempt for them? And then you would naturally conclude that, oh, okay, the Mseleku legacy is at stake, so they are needed, even though they are not wanted. He is quite a contradiction, Mseleku is. It was quite a sad moment for me. I was watching with my mom and I was like, but why would this man say that out loud in front of people like that? You know, it was a low moment for the show, in my opinion, even though there are so many other moments that are quite low, hey? But this takes the cake, and not in a good way, in the sense that Mseleku is using his wives as a resource. Even though he is a misogynist, right? He has such contempt for women, but he needs them as a resource to get the children who will carry on the Mseleku bloodline. He is using manipulation tactics, and the manipulation tactic he uses on MANGWABE is positing that the children need their parents to stay together in order to grow up. This is his argument to MANGWABE in order to keep her as his wife, that the future is what they should look towards.
Fanele afundiswe imina nawe sibambisene uze nande uyancenga udinga mina nawe.
Mseleku never fails to amaze because he uses their school-aged children as a reason to keep their relationship intact, their marriage intact, forgetting that kids grow up and leave home, leaving behind parents who don't even like, let alone love each other. She brings up a prudent point, and in this case, common sense, that is that co-parenting exists and that she's been practicing it with her co-parent, her child's father from a previous relationship, with success. And their child is growing up and is actually flourishing. Her words, not mine.
I doubt ukuthi ingane ikhula just because nisukeni together nobaba wayo. Mina nginayo ingane nomunye umuntu engingenayo, but ingane yami iyakhula and ikhula kahle.
This attempt by Mseleku to try and keep his wife by using his children as bait just shows how low he will go, and also just shows that he is willing to stay in a relationship that is broken, and he can't fathom that a woman would leave her husband despite how he is treating them. It is sort of a slap in MANGWABE's face in a way to even think that she would stay for her children when she can just get out and be a happy parent and co-parent her children, because she understands that they will grow up, you know? And for him to come at her with that solution when she is co-parenting with her baby's father from a previous relationship, and there is evidence that co-parenting is a healthy alternative, shows how low he thinks MANGWABE's IQ is. With MaCELE, Mseleku heavily leans on the fact that she is the matriarch of the family and thus cannot leave thus cannot leave out of the blue. She must help her husband journey the polygamy path. Her position as wife number one is essentially conditional. He repeats the statements, "We have served MaCELE. She has been treated like a queen," which means that MaCELE must pay back the respect that has been issued to her by him and her fellow sister wives in kind. Mseleku, in this sense, reduces his and MaCELE'S relationship to a transaction because it is time for her to take the mantle of being deputy husband, a job that has been done so far by Makhumalo. This is further solidified by Mseleku revealing that his first wife is older and doesn't much care for or participate in bedroom antics, which says that they are roommates, best friends, and now co-conspirators in the expansion of the Mseleku bloodline, that she needs to do her part in welcoming all the wives that follow after her, to essentially be his right-hand man, to discipline her sister wives in the name of the Mseleku legacy, to essentially stick her nose in other people's business, in other people's relationships, which she essentially refuses because she understands that if she does enact all of these duties of a deputy husband, she will essentially be public enemy number 2 after Mseleku. That is why Mseleku has the goal to ask MaCELE to essentially be MaKhwela's mother-in-law and teach her the ways of the family, and also introduce her to the other sister wives, which she refuses and sets boundaries to say that they are sister wives and not friends.
Kusukela manje nje ukuthi angisiyeni mamezala wakhe mina azange ngimfice mamezala so naye akamficanga.
She seems to greatly resent her position because Mseleku uses it against her, and only when it is in his best interests to do so. He even does mention how with him going to each wife who has threatened to leave and him groveling in a sense for them to stay, him doing that, all of that is because it is the right thing to do. It's not because he wants to do it. It's not because he feels that losing them would break his heart. He does it because it needs to be said and it needs to be known that he did try, even though the intentions behind his attempts are not so pure and they are divorced from his heart, divorced from of simply loving someone and wanting to be with them. So it's kind of it's such a contradiction. This man is. Living with him, I would imagine, is very difficult. Now I understand where MaCELE is coming from. I understand where MaYENI'S is coming from. I understand where MANGWABE is coming from, because she seems very level-headed. She's like, my guy, this is the evidence. This is what I've said. This is what you said. And this is what I've answered. I don't know what more you want from me. I have answered you and you are still at my door, groveling, trying to keep me, when you could have saved our marriage and kept your promise to not marry another wife and have me be the last one as you promised. Who's to say that Mseleku won't be left with just 2 wives at the end of the decade? Because the situation seems to be unraveling at the seams. This very perfect polygamist lifestyle they have tried to portray to us is built upon a very shaky foundation, and it's crumbling little by little. It's quite fascinating watching Mseleku, just experiencing him as he is, and how he is such a a walking contradiction. So guys, that's all I have for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you think about all of the episodes. Tell me what you think about how MaChele was trying to defend her ability to financially take care of herself even while she was married. It's quite an eye-opening experience watching Uthando Nes'thembu. Just listening to the nuggets of misguided knowledge that he drops, the little comments, the little snide comments about his wives, and the little snide comments about women. So guys, thank you so much for watching. This is your mother Bioskop signing out. I'll see you in the next video. Toodles.